All right. Happy Monday. It's 7:32 p.m. Central. We are going to start our book study, chapters 11 and 12 of the book called Success is a Choice by John Maxwell. Okay, so chapter 11 is entitled Develop Strong Character, there was a lot to chew for me in chapter 11. Close the door, please. And chapter 12. But chapter 11 felt somewhat convicting for me personally, which is good. And chapter 12 is called Cultivate Good Relationships, which was an excellent chapter. Okay, so I'm just going to start us off. Of course, please chime in because I don't need to be talking the entire time. Okay, close the door, please, right now. I have my 3.5-year-old helper here who said she wanted to see her neighbors. I don't know where she got it from, but she called you all her neighbors. Anyways, she's like, I want to see my neighbors. Do you want to see your neighbors? Okay. All right. The first sentence, or one of the first sentences at the top of page 129 in the book says, absence of strong character eventually topples talent. That shot out to me and I underlined it. Actually, Adam and I were talking today to our children about it's one thing to have good talent. We were talking about how we have a lot of talent in our family, and that's a good thing. And they should probably have some of those talent genes, but that's not enough because you can only go so far with talent. You have to practice. Otherwise, stop. Otherwise, you can't go far. Talented people are sometimes tempted to take shortcuts. Character prevents that. Okay, anyone speak out. Speak out. Just the first whole paragraph was so good and eye-opening for me. Character builds what's inside a person. Character makes a difference in the person. Character protects the gift of someone's talent. Another thing that stood out to me on page 130, where he says character holds us steady no matter how rough the storm becomes. That reminds me regarding plexus. It's very, and I say this not from this is a fun thing, but a fascinating kind of observation is what happens when people in plexus or on our team, over the last however many years, where they run into they get stuck or they're doing all the right things, but they're not getting anywhere. Or they have someone who they've put a lot of hopes and dreams in quit. And I get there is a lot of discouragement there. There can be. And so I'm not devaluing the discouragement and the disappointment. But it's very fascinating to see who um who stays the course and chooses to embrace the challenges and grow through them, and who basically takes a step back or completely jumps out and jumps ship. So there's just character holds us steady no matter how rough the storm becomes. There can become times where we might lose a certain leader individual in our organization, and that can be scary. Now, it's happened with some people. But it's what matters is what we choose to do in that circumstance. And do we let it totally crush us and we throw in the towel, or do we choose to work through it and grow through it? At the most basic level, so I'm moving on to self-discipline. Self-discipline is the ability to do what is right, even when you don't feel like doing it. That feels like my life in a nutshell because I I am a I was more of, not as much now, a live by my feelings kind of person. And I still have to tell myself in my head that just because you feel this way doesn't mean it's true, even though it really feels like it's true, doesn't mean it's true, Melody. Like, you know. So anyone else? I mean, the self-discipline part is what we do. Disciplining ourselves as an individual to do the things we need to do. Stop. Do the things we need to do in this business opportunity in order to reap the rewards through consistency of the different rewards we get from this.
What stuck out to me was the components of character, going back to that, about how it's what they think and never share with others. It's what they do when no one is watching them. It's how they react to terrible traffic and other everyday aggravations. It's how they handle failure and success. And I know for me, it's like there was just a lot of, I just see, you know, Plexus has just shown me so much about myself that was just so ugly, and I didn't even realize it was there until I started reading books and then going back and seeing that it's all biblical and it's all, I don't know. I was talking to my daughter about this, and it's like reading books, and then it's almost like it brings, you read the Bible and it's like, wait a second, all of these things are there, and I've been reading them all my life and I've never applied them. I've never asked God, like, show me how to apply these things. And so there was just, I've just seen all these little frustrations that would just annoy me over the years, just little, just stupid things like, a kid breaking, one of my kids breaking something that's like not, or just doing something that was just a little inconvenience, and it was just annoy me so much. And now it's like, why was that so hard to get, anyway, I'm just grateful for the growth that I've seen in myself. And this was a good chapter for me as well.
I was gonna say when he said something about like character outdoes talent, and it really applies to what we do, because people say all the time like you're selling yourself, you're not selling Plexus. And we always talk about how like you don't need a big following, you don't need to know what you're doing, like you need to have a strong character and show who you are and sell you as a person and why someone should join you and how you're going to help them, rather than like the girl who has the perfectly aesthetically pleasing Instagram grid. Like, there's so many companies out here, and everyone's kind of jumping on like the pink drink train and trying to make something similar. And, everyone's getting onto like gut health and vitamins. But when you have a strong character and you can present yourself and why someone should join you, that's going to outweigh talent. And like those girls doing, TikTok dances and stuff like that. Like you don't have to be good at stuff like that. And a lot of people think like, oh, like I don't have that many followers. It doesn't matter. Like you don't need that many followers. Like you need to show up as authentically you. That's what I got out of that.
That was actually a light bulb moment just now, what you shared, how when we talk to people moving forward about working in the opportunity, we need to talk more about building their character. Like this isn't about you trying to promote something that you don't know anything about. It's about you becoming a person of better character as you put a selfie of yourself holding your pink drink.
When
So I think, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
when I think of the word character, I think of also the word credibility. And I feel like when we show up consistently talking about our products or talking about gut health, or when people, that shows credibility for us, as opposed to us showing up, making a post every time we have a big sale or something like that, or maybe the last week of the month. But I think just that credibility of like, we're always open for business every day. That wasn't in the book, but that's what I was thinking.
No, that's good. And it shows that, okay, from someone who's observing it from the outside, like on Facebook, like if I wasn't doing Plexus, seeing, like Janelle, using you as an example, seeing you post about Plexus so frequently, you know what I mean? It's intermingled with your life. It shows a consistency which grows that credibility that you have, you know? The same goes for all of us. So people, that's okay, here, side note. This is why we don't disappear. Like we don't disappear, okay? Preaching to myself. We don't disappear. Because when people see your consistency of showing up doing Plexus sprinkled into your life, all on social media, cycling through all the time. Yeah, and we don't dabble in other MLMs on social media. Okay, people will start reaching out to you. Now, it doesn't happen for me at all, like to a huge extent, but it has happened to me several times in the last several months. I have had a good, for me, amount of people randomly reach out to me. Okay, because okay, I'm not tooting my own horn. I'm just factually, I put it in my stories. It's part of my life in my stories and Facebook. Okay, so that goes, Janelle, like you were saying, excuse me, back to the um our credibility and character go hand in hand. Being self-disciplined as a person, disciplining, leading yourself is fundamental in this.
I was
Also,
gonna say,
good.
Melody, really quick, that's also like if you're new or just newer to like promoting the business or the products, like that's how you take away that like self-limiting belief or that obstacle of like, I don't want to look like I'm being salesy. Well, when you show up and you can promote you and your character,
Mhm.
like who you are as a person, what you represent, like what you stand for, stuff like that, what you do in your day-to-day life, like that's how you work your business without looking like the girl who's just trying to make a sale. Because when you're consistently posting and you are working on your character and letting people get to know you and build a relationship with you, and you sprinkle in Plexus, that's why people don't think, oh, she's just trying to make a sale off of me. No, I'm not. That's not what my page looks like. That's like, that's what I thought of when Janelle was like, um, I just lost exactly what she said, but not showing up just when we have a sale.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what she said. I was like, wait, what did she say?
Not showing up just on Black Friday or the end of the month.
Yeah, that's how you turn yourself into the girl who's just trying to make a sale.
And that goes along. We need to keep moving forward. This is all very good. He talks about integrity. So again, integrity is tied right into part of developing a good character, strong character. People who possess, is that right? People who possess the consistency that comes with strong integrity can be very compelling. Okay. But actually what I wanted to move on to is page 35. I have underlined and starred. Character communicates. So under that section I have, that's why you must first develop within before you can achieve much without. But once you build strong character, it does more than provide a platform for your personal success and the maximization of your talent. It also impacts others and allows you to build with them. This is like network marketing. Okay, now it doesn't mean that we cannot start having success immediately out the gate doing Plexus because we have to wait. Now that's a whole nother. We're not waiting to grow as a person and then having success. I have actually had someone over the years, someone in particular, point blank tell me, I'm just going to read the person. I need to work on my personal development, so I'm not going to work my business right now. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Actually, I've had 2 people tell me that. Like, that makes no sense. You cannot do that. It's not possible. That's like saying I'm going to practice cooking, but I'm not going to cook. I'm going to read the cookbooks. Like, it doesn't make sense. Okay. So no. All right. Sorry. It irks me when someone says that because I'm like, you make no sense. That sounds like you just don't want to work. Okay. Just say that. But we don't need to wait. So we develop our character while we're doing the uncomfortable things, right? Reading the books, learning, absorbing, applying, sending out messages to people that make us feel uncomfortable, maybe getting out of our comfort zone, doing a reel, going live. But we're developing our character in the process. But if we find ourselves stuck, which I know we've all found ourselves in places where we're like, I'm doing the things, what is going on? We've heard other people in our company say the same thing and how they got unstuck. And it really came down to being like, okay, what do I need to learn? Fallon Rabe, now Rabe, is a really good example of that, where, and that's a whole nother testimony. It's a really good one. If I can find it on YouTube, I'll have to post it in our chat. But she was stuck for a long time, went backwards, way backwards, all the way to square one, lost her gold rank and everything. And then she just started reading and applying and doing the things she was supposed to be doing and took off. Okay. But okay, moving forward. Character is huge. Okay, it's huge. Let's see. Oh, if you want, okay, character communicates longevity. Character determines which will happen. If you will stick with this, I'm paraphrasing, stick with this, stick with your whatever you're working on, continue in it, learning, growing, or do you not have good character and are you quitting? And then no goals are made, no success happens. Okay, anyone else? All right, I'm gonna say another one on this chapter, then we need to move forward. Towards the end of the chapter, I have noted on page 141, take control of your life, where he says, I've observed that the people with the weakest character tend to place the blame on their circumstances. They often claim that poor upbringing, financial difficulties, the unkindness of others, or other circumstances have made them victims. It's true that in life we must face many things outside our control, but know this, while your circumstances are beyond your control, your character is not. Your character is always your choice. Just like my words, I can choose my words, I can choose my attitude. I can be in control of how I think and what I say, how I act, how I run my business. Do I run it? Do I get lazy and not make the time to work it? Yeah. Developing character is your personal responsibility. You must earn it. Okay. Cultivate good relationships. That other chapter is just chock full. All right, but cultivate good relationships. Oh my goodness. So that quote about who you are, the top 5 people that you spend the most time with, you become, can be a really amazing thing or a really scary thing, maybe. And sometimes we can't control who we are around, because if, if if it's a husband, which for me it's not, but if it's a husband and there is an unsupportive husband who tears down with his words what his wife is attempting to do, she cannot control who, she's around him. She cannot control being around him. But in general, who we choose to be friends with, even some family members, we're not around all our family all the time, and there's probably certain reasons why we're not. Because some family members don't see the value in what we do. And so, and we obviously want to, love our family and our friends, but we can pick who we are around. I have underlined here, people can trace the successes and failures in their lives to their most significant relationships. I remember point blank, my dad would always tell me, he would basically make it very clear to me that I could do pretty much anything I set my mind to. I didn't think I could until he would say things like that, and then I thought I could do anything. But literally, like he was the first person in my life who would speak life over me. And that's really important. I think many people mistakenly minimize the impact other people can have on their lives. And I loved how he went on to talk about how his parents made sure that he and his siblings had really had good friends over, like they were in control of his social circle as a child, as a young adult, maybe. Because kids can be mean, and some of my memories aren't, of growing up with certain kids isn't the greatest. Some are great, some are not great. And those things stick with you for years, right? And you hear one kid say something unkind about you, and then you like internalize it. And then not until you're in your 30s and you're doing Plexus and personal development, you realize that's not true. Okay, anyone else? I'm doing a lot of talking. You guys have to have something on this chapter because we all have relationships.
Well, I loved how he told the story about how his parents protected their children by being careful about who their kids were surrounded with, and they always welcome people to their own home. I listened to that in front of my kids when it was talking about like their friendships matter. I was like, it's always nice to hear it from someone else.
I thought about that paragraph when her daughter wanted to meet the neighbors. When Melody's daughter wanted to meet the neighbors. I thought about this paragraph because it's true.
Well, and I'm gonna speed on ahead here a little bit. He goes on to give that his friend Les Parrott gives those questions to go through and inventory, maybe different relationships we have with people in our lives. And it's also a really good list to go through on page 145 and 146, and talking about and into 147, like who do we want to work with? Because and Auntie Heidi and she's been sharing a little bit with me about certain people that she's been connected to, either on her team or she's been in communication with, potentially to be on her team. And there's been some relief that certain people are not on her team. And it's freeing because you're like, I don't need them. I don't need them. I don't know if you have it. Okay, yes, good.
Yeah, I actually got a text from someone yesterday morning, right before church, and she said, I'm just letting you know, hope you're not upset, but I am no longer, I removed my membership, and I was like, oh my goodness, thank the Lord. I'm just like, I'm glad. I'm honestly glad that she's gone. I found this chapter interesting too, about who we're around and all that. And it made me think, and this is just something that, we're in ministry, and it made me realize that the job that my husband has, and sometimes the people that I'm not saying that I don't want to be around them, but it's hard. It's hard sometimes because there's people, like if I'm not friends with them, who's going to be their friend? And these are people that are needy, and it's hard. That balance there, and how do you, it's just something that I was thinking through, and I'm like, maybe that's why it's so hard for pastors, because most of the time they're dealing with people who are always having problems, you know? It was kind of like a light bulb moment.
Yep. Well, and then so you can't control it in a ministry setting. You can't. And God brings certain people into your circle of influence there for different reasons. And God brings, all different people to our team too. But he also gives us discernment and the advice and wisdom and counsel from others on our team to know that maybe this person is just somebody that you need to take a step back from. And you can love them and care for them, but you need to spend less time trying to help them in this business because they are clearly not doing what they need to be doing. I had something like that happen several years ago in my upline because I was just whatever, gullible, naive. And they said, she's emotionally abusing you, this specific person who is no longer on my team. And I hadn't really dealt with that before, so I wasn't cognizant of it. But yeah, relationships are extremely impactful. Good relationships add value to us so that our talent is actually enhanced. A few good relationships can make all the difference in where a talented person ends up in life. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so I felt like when I was reading part of this, for me personally, I thought of Ruthie right away because she was sharing today on Master Your Monday. It was so good. But on a personal level, for me, way back, there were maybe a couple times. Well, she was the first of my upline outside of Monica who reached out to me personally, even though she was really nervous and I was to her a stranger and I had joined her team a couple months earlier. But she chose to call me, check in on me, and share with me about the comp plan, finding out if I knew how it worked. And I didn't know how it worked. And so that was my first amazing encounter with her. And then over the next couple of years, when there were some times where I would have some disappointments of, I don't even remember what it was. It's obviously not important anymore. But I remember literally crying to her. And she would listen. And then in her sweet, tough love voice, she'd be like, okay, give yourself 10 minutes. Now, what are you going to do? You're going to sit there and wallow, or are you going to pull up your big girl panties and grow in it and move forward? I'm telling you, that was some of the best stuff I needed someone in my life to tell me those things. And I think that it can be common for some of us to be afraid to say those things to the people we are working with. But sometimes we need to. Okay, anyone else? I underlined, a few relationships have such a tremendous impact that they can change the course of our lives. Hands down, for me, that is when God dropped Plexus into my life, which dropped some amazing women who they themselves were working on their own personal development and chose to pass that on. Yeah, it was the best thing, one of the best things that ever happened for me. A lot of good, tough love, a lot of it. Okay, I think we need to end unless somebody has something they want to share because it's just after 8. I know I didn't get through the entire chapter here. Next week it is chapter 13 and 14. And at that point, oh, that's the end of the book. So I will get the recording into our chat tonight or tomorrow morning. So thank you all for coming on. Hold on, let me take a picture. Everyone smile. Don't, nobody leave. Nobody leave. Nobody leave. Hold on. Okay, everyone smile. Thank you. Ready, set, cheese. Thank you. Okay. Have a good night, everyone.